Welcome to This Explainer. Let's start with a really fascinating, almost invisible paradox we all face. You know, when the pressure of stress suddenly hits, you'd think that with our amazing human problem-solving brains, our options would actually expand to meet the challenge. But strangely, the exact opposite happens. Our menu of choices just inexplicably, instantly shrinks. The mind suddenly craves fast relief. We don't necessarily want to solve the problem, we just want the discomfort to stop right now. So today, we're going to explore a beautifully simple framework to change that default reaction. We'll look at how to shift out of passive avoidance and into active agency, using a really grounded, practical method known as the 20-minute reset.
So I want you to honestly reflect on this for a second. When stress rises, when you get that vague, uncomfortable tightening in your chest after a tough email or when a project just feels completely overwhelming, where do you instinctively go? For most of us, there's a very common, almost automatic reach for the nearest digital feed. We grab our phones, we open an app, and what starts as a few minutes of short videos quietly stretches into a much longer escape than we ever actually planned. Now, it's important to realize this isn't a moral failure. It's literally just human nature seeking a frictionless exit. But we really have to ask ourselves, what is this immediate reflex actually doing to our nervous system? Is it giving us true recovery, or is it just hitting a temporary pause button on our anxiety? Think about the contrast between these two very different paths. Imagine a phone feed as a whirlpool. It's a passive, high-novelty interruption. It pulls you in with humor, surprise, maybe even outrage. And yes, it absolutely interrupts your discomfort in the short term, but the catch is it leaves the underlying physical tension entirely unresolved. You're basically just spinning in place. On the other hand, we have the exit ramp. This represents deliberate movement and physical resolution. It's an intentional path out of the tension. When you choose the whirlpool, you're essentially training your brain in the art of avoidance. But when you choose the exit ramp, you're training it to find a genuine, restorative completion to the stress cycle.
This progression perfectly illustrates why that choice matters so deeply. We often treat our little daily escapes as completely harmless moments, right? But they actually follow a profound existential progression. It all starts with a thought, the spark, that initial urge to avoid. Do that enough and it settles into a mood, kind of like the daily weather of your mind. Let that mood linger and it hardens into an attitude, the posture you take when you face the world. Eventually, the escapes we repeatedly host act like footsteps. Over time, they carve out a well-worn road. And that road, that becomes your character. Your personality and your reality are literally shaped by the tiny loops you choose when you feel uncomfortable.
Section 1. The body as an anchor, reversing the direction of stress.
This brings us to a really crucial, somewhat hidden principle. Willpower is a terrible interface for stress. Why? Because stress isn't just a mental concept. It's a physical activation. Your heart rate changes, your muscles tighten, your cortisol spikes. You literally cannot think your way out of a physical state using sheer mental force. The intervention has to be physical too. We have to use the body as an anchor to reverse the direction of stress. So our goal isn't just to relax. It's to reclaim agency. Agency is that powerful shift from being acted upon by stress to actively taking constructive action. When you're stressed, it feels like the world is happening to you, like you're a passive recipient of all this pressure. But the moment you give your body a deliberate physical task, whether that's a brisk walk, 20 push-ups, or simply stretching, you burn off that physiological arousal. Instantly, the direction reverses. You're now the one acting, you're moving, and even before the original problem is solved, that vital sense of agency has completely returned.
Now, to make that shift from passive to active, we need a mechanism. Enter the 5-second rule. And I'm not presenting this as some flashy motivational cliche, but rather as a highly practical countdown doorway. When the stress hits, you have a window of about 5 seconds before the automatic urge to scroll takes over your brain's autopilot. That 5-second window is your intentional interruption. It's the space where you pause, count backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and step through a new doorway toward a chosen physical direction. It acts as a literal circuit breaker for your habits. But as we all know, willpower absolutely falters under pressure, so we can't just rely on counting to 5 in the heat of the moment. We have to design our environment in advance. Think about it. If you have to hunt for your running shoes while you're already stressed, you're probably just going to open your phone instead. But if your shoes are waiting right by the door, if a specific reset playlist is already queued up, and if your most tempting apps have a delay blocker installed, well, you've completely changed the game. By setting the stage before the stress even arrives, when that 5-second doorway opens, the healthier choice is suddenly the easiest one to step through. Section 2, the 20-minute reset, a grounded protocol for restoring agency.
So what is this reset? It's a graceful, grounded loop designed specifically to replace our default escape loop of passive scrolling. It's a highly specific, repeatable sequence that turns stress from a cue for consumption into a cue for a physical reset. Here is exactly how this sequence flows. First, name the cue. You just say to yourself, "This is stress, not a command to scroll." That simple label creates a tiny yet incredibly powerful pause. Second, start very small. Commit to just 5 minutes of movement, a walk, a stretch, some jumping jacks, whatever works. The modesty of 5 minutes is absolutely key here because it protects the identity of the habit so you don't talk yourself out of it. Third, let momentum decide. If you feel like stopping after 5 minutes, that's totally fine, but often the body warms up and naturally wants to continue to 10 or 15. And finally, close with water.
Which brings us to what might actually be the most underrated step of the whole process, the post-movement shower. Now, this isn't just about hygiene. It's a critical transition ritual. Think of it as drawing a sensory line in the sand, a very clear boundary between the emergency and the aftermath. As the warm water hits you, as you change into fresh clothes, you're sending a visceral, undeniable signal directly to your brain. You are telling your nervous system that the emergency phase is officially over. The energy has been discharged, the threat is cleared, and you're finally safe to move forward.
Sure, the physical relief is immediate, but the much deeper advantage of this sequence is what happens over time. Every single time you choose the exit ramp instead of the whirlpool, you are fundamentally shifting your identity. You're gathering concrete evidence about who you are. Each repetition teaches your brain, stress does not automatically make me a passive consumer of my anxieties. Stress makes me a person who resets. You prove to yourself physically and undeniably that you are an active agent in your own life. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final, timeless reflection. The thought you repeatedly host becomes the attitude you carry into the world. The small, daily, controllable loops we choose to practice, whether we turn toward that whirlpool or step through the doorway toward movement, ultimately define who we become. So the next time that familiar wave of stress rises, which road will you choose to carve?